The rehearsal hall smelled like pine and money. That's the first thing I noticed when I walked through those massive oak doors at the Riverside Lodge. Not the smell of flowers or champagne or whatever the hell people are supposed to notice at wedding rehearsals. Just pine from the beams overhead, and that particular scent wealthy people seem to carry with them everywhere, like expensive soap mixed with entitlement. My son Michael was standing near the makeshift altar they'd set up, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable in a way that should have warned me. 28 years I'd known that kid. 28 years of reading his tells, and I missed it completely. Too focused on being the good father, showing up when I was supposed to, keeping my mouth shut about the venue that cost more than my truck. The bride, Jessica, though I still couldn't think of her without putting mental quotation marks around the word bride, was talking to the wedding coordinator, animated, gesturing with those perfectly manicured hands that had never seen a day of actual work. Her mother stood beside her, nodding along like one of those dashboard bobbleheads, and I could see them both glancing my way every few seconds. Not friendly glances. I'd driven 3 hours to be here. Took the day off work, which meant Tommy had to cover my shift at the construction site, and Tommy had 3 kids and needed the overtime more than I needed to be standing in this overpriced barn watching my son marry into a family that looked at me like I'd tracked mud across their Persian rug. Dad. Michael walked over, that uncomfortable look deepening. Hey, glad you made it. Wouldn't miss it. I kept my voice neutral. Easy. The same tone I'd used when he told me he was dropping out of community college to work at his girlfriend's father's real estate firm. The same tone I'd used when he announced the engagement after dating Jessica for 8 months. Nice place? Yeah. He glanced back at Jessica, then at me. Listen, about the seating arrangements. Mr. Patterson. Jessica's mother materialized beside us like she'd been waiting for her cue. Barbara Thornton, real estate agent, country club member, and according to the one time I'd met her before today, firmly convinced that her daughter had married down. We need to discuss the processional. Sure thing. I stepped back, giving her space. Actually, she said, and her smile was the kind you see on people who are about to tell you something unpleasant while pretending they're doing you a favor. We've made some adjustments to the wedding party lineup. Given the differences in our families' backgrounds, we thought it would be best if you sat in the second row, Jessica interrupted, walking up behind her mother. She wasn't smiling at all. Not the front. The rehearsal hall went quiet. Not completely silent. There were still people milling around, the coordinator still shuffling papers on her clipboard, but that particular kind of quiet that happens when something ugly is about to be said out loud, and everyone nearby has developed sudden superhuman hearing. Second row, I repeated. Yes. Jessica's chin went up, defiant, like I was the one being unreasonable. We're a different class than you. We have standards to maintain, and having you in the front row with the immediate family would send the wrong message to our guests. I looked at Michael, waiting for him to say something, anything. Waiting for my son to remember who'd paid for his Little League uniforms and his first car and the application fees for the colleges he never attended. He looked at his shoes. Michael? I said quietly. Dad. His voice was barely audible. Maybe it's better if you don't make a scene, Barbara cut in. This is Jessica's day, our day. You should be grateful you're invited at all, considering how embarrassing it was when you showed up to the engagement party in those work boots. They were clean boots. I'd made sure of that. Spent 20 minutes scrubbing cement dust off them in the driveway before driving to that engagement party, where I'd stood in a corner drinking cheap beer while everyone else sipped wine and talked about market rates and portfolio diversification. I see, I kept my voice level. Calm. The kind of calm that comes from years of dealing with difficult contractors and impossible deadlines and learning that sometimes the best response is no response at all. Second row, got it. Good. Jessica turned back to the coordinator. Let's continue. I should have left right then. Should have walked out those oak doors and driven 3 hours back home and let them have their perfect wedding without the embarrassment of the working-class father polluting their pristine social event. But I'm a stubborn bastard, always have been, so I stayed. Sat in the second row like I was told, watched them run through the ceremony. Listened to Barbara whisper to another woman about how Michael had married up and how they were working on his rough edges. The other woman glanced back at me, pity in her eyes, and said something I couldn't quite hear. Barbara's response was clearer. Well, we can't expect much from that background. I just hope the children don't inherit any of his traits. Children. They were already planning how to breed out my influence. Michael caught my eye once during the rehearsal, looked away immediately, guilty, ashamed, not of his fiancée or her mother, I realized with something cold settling in my stomach, ashamed of me. After the rehearsal, there was supposed to be a dinner. Nothing fancy, just pizza and beer in the lodge's side room for the wedding party and close family. I made it as far as the doorway before Jessica's voice cut across the chatter. "Mr. Patterson, you're not needed for the dinner. It's just the immediate wedding party." Barbara nodded, smiling that same fake smile. "I'm sure you understand. It's quite intimate." Michael was already inside the room, already sitting down, already pretending he couldn't hear this conversation. "Sure," I said. "I understand." I walked back through that rehearsal hall, past the chairs they'd arranged in perfect rows, past the flowers that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, past the coordinator who very carefully didn't make eye contact. The oak doors were heavy, solid, the kind of doors that made a statement when they closed. I let them close quietly behind me. The parking lot was gravel and dust, practical in a way the lodge itself wasn't. My truck sat in the back row, mud-splattered and honest, surrounded by luxury sedans and SUVs that cost more than I made in a year. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and gold, and I stood there for a minute just breathing. Different class than me. Standards to maintain, embarrassing. I pulled out my phone and called my wife. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, honey, how'd it go?" "About like we expected," I said. Silence on the other end. Then, "They said something, didn't they?" "Yeah." I unlocked the truck, climbed in. The seat knew my shape. The steering wheel fit my hands. Everything in this truck was mine, paid for with my own money, and nobody could take that away. "They said something." "Come home. We'll figure this out. I need to make a call first." "To who?" "The bank." Another silence. Longer this time. So my wife, Patricia, though I'd called her Patty for 30 years, was sharper than people gave her credit for. She could hear everything I wasn't saying in those 3 words. "What are you planning?" she asked carefully. "I'm planning to find out exactly who paid for this wedding," I said, "and who controls the contract." I hung up before she could ask more questions. Scrolled through my contacts until I found Daniel Reeves, my banker for the last 15 years. The guy who'd helped me refinance the house, who'd set up Michael's college fund that Michael never used, who'd processed the loan I'd taken out 6 months ago when Michael came to me desperate. When Michael told me Jessica's family was helping with the wedding, but they needed a co-signer for the venue because their credit was temporarily complicated. When I'd been stupid enough to believe my son wouldn't betray me. Daniel answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Patterson, little late for a business call, isn't it?" "I need to know about that venue contract," I said. "The one for Michael's wedding, the Riverside Lodge." "What about it?" "Who's listed as the primary account holder?" Silence. Then the sound of typing. "You are. Why?" "And the contract terms?" More typing. "Standard event contract. You've got, let me see, full control over all vendor authorizations, timeline modifications, and cancellation rights. It's a pretty comprehensive agreement. Most of the protection is on your end, actually." "Meaning?" "Meaning you can modify or terminate any aspect of the event up to 24 hours before without penalty. After that, you forfeit the deposit, but nothing else. Whoever negotiated this contract was looking out for the person paying, not the venue." I sat in my truck, watching the sun finish setting and let that information settle into my bones. "And if I wanted to see the full contract? I can email it to you right now, but Patterson, what's going on? Michael said everything was fine with the wedding plans." "I'm sure he did," I said. "Send me that contract, all of it." "You got it. But seriously, if there's a problem—" "No problem," I lied. "Just want to review everything before the big day." I hung up and sat there while the parking lot emptied around me. Watched luxury cars drive away carrying luxury people with their luxury problems. Watched the lights come on in the lodge, warm and golden through those big windows. My phone buzzed. Email from Daniel with 6 attachments. I didn't open them right away. Just sat there thinking about my son's face when he looked at his shoes, thinking about Barbara's whisper about rough edges and inherited traits, thinking about Jessica's chin coming up, defiant, like she had the right to decide where I sat at my own son's wedding, different class than me. My phone rang. Michael. I let it go to voicemail. Rang again. Michael again. Voicemail. A text this time. "Dad, I'm sorry about what Jessica said. She didn't mean it the way it sounded." I typed back, "Sure she did." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, "Can we talk about this later? Everyone's asking where you went." "Tell them I went home," I typed. "Tell them I know my place." I started the truck and pulled out of that gravel parking lot without looking back. 3 hours of highway stretched ahead of me, 3 hours of darkness and road noise and time to think. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Patty was waiting on the porch, coffee in her hands, that look on her face that meant she'd been thinking too. 30 years of marriage, and I could read her tells better than I could read my son's. "You opened the contracts," she said. "How'd you know?" "Because I know you." She handed me the coffee. "And because I'm the one who made you promise to co-sign that loan in the first place. I'm the one who said your son needed help. That family helps family. You couldn't have known." "I should have." She sat down on the porch step, and I sat beside her, shoulder to shoulder the way we'd sat for 30 years. "That girl has been poison from the start. I just didn't want to say it because Michael seemed happy." "He's ashamed of us." "He's ashamed of himself. There's a difference." I sipped the coffee. It was still hot. Patty had timed it perfectly, the way she always did. "They want me in the second row at the wedding. Said I'm not the right class for the front row." Jesus Christ. Her mother said she hopes the grandchildren don't inherit any of my traits. Patty's hand found mine, squeezed hard. "What did you find in the contracts?" "I own that venue," I said. "Everything. Every vendor authorization, every timeline decision, every single aspect of that wedding. It's all in my name. They need my approval for anything to happen." "And they don't know that?" "Michael thinks it's his, or Jessica's family's. I signed everything 6 months ago when he said they needed help, and then I didn't hear another word about it. They've been planning this whole wedding like it's theirs." Patty was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What are you going to do?" I looked out at our yard, at the house we'd bought 28 years ago when Michael was born, at the neighborhood where people worked for a living and helped each other out, and didn't give a damn about what class you came from as long as you pulled your weight. "I'm going to teach them a lesson about class," I said. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The workshop behind the house was my sanctuary. Had been since we bought this place. Patricia always called it my cave, half affectionate, half exasperated, and she wasn't wrong. Concrete floor, metal shelves lined with tools and parts and projects in various states of completion, a workbench that had seen better days but still did the job. The overhead light was harsh fluorescent, the kind that made everything look exactly like what it was without any polish or pretense. I spread the contract documents across the workbench at 2 a.m, coffee going cold in my mug, reading glasses perched on my nose. 6 documents total, each one thick with legal language and fine print. But I'd learned to read contracts years ago when I started my own small contracting business. You learned fast, or you got screwed, and I'd only gotten screwed once before I figured it out. The primary contract was simple enough on the surface. Event rental agreement for the Riverside Lodge, dated 6 months ago, signed by me as the account holder. Michael's signature was nowhere on it. Neither was Jessica's. Just mine, neat and legal, at the bottom of page 12. But it was the attachments that told the real story. Catering contract, my signature authorizing payment, my name as the responsible party, transportation contract, same thing. Floral arrangements, me again. Photography package, me. Every single vendor associated with this wedding was contracted under my name, with my authorization required for any changes or cancellations. Michael had come to me 6 months ago, desperate and embarrassed, and asked me to co-sign because Jessica's family was having temporary cash flow issues. But they'd pay me back within 90 days. 90 days had come and gone. Nobody had paid me back a dime. I pulled out my calculator and started adding numbers. The venue alone was $40,000. Catering for 200 guests, another $30,000. Transportation, $10,000. Flowers, $8,000. Photography, $6,000. The band, $12,000. Add in the decorations, the cake, the rehearsal dinner, all the little pieces that added up to a wedding Jessica's family couldn't actually afford. $138,000. I sat back and stared at that number. More than my annual salary. More than the equity I had in this house. More than I'd ever spent on anything except the house itself. Jesus Christ, I muttered. That bad? I turned. Patricia was standing in the doorway wearing her bathrobe, arms crossed, face drawn with worry and something harder. Anger, maybe. Or maybe just understanding. $138,000, I said. That's what I'm on the hook for. She came into the workshop, picked up the venue contract, started reading. Her lips moved slightly as she worked through the legal language, a habit she'd had since I met her. After a few minutes, she set it down and looked at me. "They're never going to pay you back." "No? Michael knows that." "Yes." "And he let them talk to you like that anyway. Let his fiancée say that garbage about class and background while he stood there knowing you'd bankrupted yourself for their wedding." I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Patricia picked up another document, scanned it, set it down. What's this clause here? The one about vendor modifications? I leaned over to look. Any changes to vendors, timeline, or event structure require written authorization from the primary account holder. That's me, with 48 hours notice. So they can't change anything without you approving it. Right. And this one? She pointed to another paragraph. Cancellation terms. I can cancel up to 24 hours before the event without penalty beyond losing the deposit. How much was the deposit? $5,000. Patricia did the math in her head the same way I had. So you could pull the entire wedding for $5,000. Technically, yes. She pulled up a metal stool and sat down across from me, the workbench between us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Just sat there in that harsh fluorescent light, looking at papers that represented 6 months of lies and manipulation. What are you thinking? She finally asked. I'm thinking about that phrase Jessica used. Different class. Like class is something you're born into and can never change. She probably does think that. Her mother definitely does. I rubbed my eyes. Tired. So damn tired. You know what Barbara said to someone during the rehearsal? Said she hopes the grandchildren don't inherit my traits. Like I'm defective, somehow. Patricia's jaw tightened. She said that? Right to someone else. Didn't even bother keeping her voice down. And Michael? Looked at his shoes. Patricia was quiet again. Then, you know what I find interesting about this contract? What? Jessica's family supposedly has money. Real estate business, country club membership, all that. But they couldn't put up the money for their own daughter's wedding. They needed you. Temporary cash flow issues, Michael said. Right. Patricia's voice was dry. How temporary? I understood what she was getting at. Pulled out my phone and opened a browser, typed in Thornton Real Estate, plus our county name. The company website loaded. Professional, sleek. Photos of Barbara and Jessica's father, Richard, smiling in expensive suits in front of sold properties. Look at the sold properties, Patricia said, reading over my shoulder. When's the last sale? I scrolled through the listings. Active properties, plenty of those. Recently sold. I kept scrolling. And scrolling. 8 months ago, I said finally. 8 months. And if they're not selling houses, they're not making money. Patricia leaned back. So let me get this straight. The Thornton family is in financial trouble. They can't afford to pay for Jessica's wedding to maintain appearances. They convince Michael to ask you for help. You sign on for everything, and then they treat you like garbage because you're not good enough for their standards. When she laid it out like that, it sounded even worse. There's more, I said. I hadn't told her this part yet. Daniel, my banker, he mentioned something when I called. Said whoever negotiated this contract was protecting the payer, not the venue. Meaning? Meaning the Riverside Lodge bent over backward to give me control. Usually these contracts favor the venue, but this one is different. Patricia frowned. Why would they do that? I don't know yet. Find out. She was right. I needed more information, needed to understand exactly what kind of leverage I had before I did anything. I checked the time, 2:30 in the morning. Too late to make calls, too early to sleep. Tomorrow, I said. First thing, I'm going to dig into this whole situation. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Her voice was flat, final. That boy is my son too, and if he's going to betray his father, then his mother has a few things to say about it. We sat there for another hour, going through the documents page by page, making notes, building a timeline. The more we dug, the clearer it became. 6 months ago, Michael had come to me in a panic. Jessica's family was fronting the money, he said, but they needed someone with better credit to actually sign the contracts. It would all get paid back. No problem. But the contracts didn't mention any reimbursement, no payment plan, no backup guarantor, just me, alone, responsible for everything. Michael had lied to me, or Jessica had lied to Michael, or everyone had lied to everyone, and I was the only one stupid enough to believe what I was told. You know what really gets me? Patricia said finally. It's not the money. We'll survive. But the way they talk to you, the way our son just stood there and let it happen. He's in love. He's a coward. I couldn't argue with that. At 3:15 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Text from Michael. Dad, please call me. We need to talk. I showed Patricia. She read it and shook her head. Don't. Not yet. Make him sweat. That's cold. Good. Her smile was sharp, mean in a way I rarely saw from her. He's earned it. I set the phone down without responding. 2 minutes later, another buzz. Michael again. I know Jessica was out of line. I told her she shouldn't have said that. Patricia leaned over to read it. Told her. Past tense. Not telling her. Not making her apologize. Just told her she shouldn't have said it. Like the problem was the words, not the meaning. Exactly. I still didn't respond. Let the silence stretch out. Let Michael sit wherever he was, probably in some hotel room paid for with Jessica's family's declining credit, and wonder what I was thinking. At 4 a.m, Patricia finally headed back to bed. I stayed in the workshop, rereading contracts, making more notes, planning. By the time the sun came up, I had a strategy. Not a complete plan. I needed more information for that. But the outline of something that would teach everyone involved a lesson about class and respect and consequences. My phone rang at 7:30. Michael again. This time I answered. Dad. Michael? Did you get my texts? I did. Silence on the other end. Uncomfortable, like he was waiting for me to say something that would make this easier for him. I didn't. Look, he finally said. Jessica's really sorry about yesterday. She was stressed and she said things she didn't mean. She meant them. Dad, did you know I signed for everything? I asked. The venue, the catering, the flowers, every single part of this wedding, all in my name. Another silence, longer this time. Jessica's dad said he'd handle that. Richard said he'd handle it? Yeah, he said he'd transfer everything into their name after the contracts were signed, make it easier for you. And did he? I don't know. I assumed he did. I let that sit. Let him hear how stupid it sounded. You assumed. Dad, what's this about? This is about your fiancé telling me I'm not good enough to sit in the front row at your wedding. This is about her mother saying she hopes your children don't inherit my traits. This is about you standing there like a coward while they humiliated me. I know. I should have said something. But Jessica's been under so much pressure with the wedding planning, and her parents are dealing with some business stuff, and I just thought, you thought it was easier to let them trash your father than to stand up for him. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. So what do you want? An apology? Jessica will call you and apologize. I don't want an apology from Jessica. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted yet. Just knew I wasn't going to roll over and take this. I want you to think about what you did and what you didn't do. Dad, I have to go, I said. I'll talk to you later. I hung up before he could respond, turned off the phone completely. Then I went inside, took a shower, put on clean clothes, and told Patricia it was time to do some research. We started with the Riverside Lodge. The drive took 45 minutes, longer in morning traffic. The lodge looked different in daylight, less magical, more practical. Still expensive, still impressive, but you could see the wear on the building if you looked close. Needed a new paint job in places. Some of the decorative trim was pulling loose. The gravel parking lot had potholes. The front desk was staffed by a young woman with a professional smile. Good morning. Welcome to Riverside Lodge. Do you have a reservation? No reservation, I said. I'm here to talk to whoever manages the event contracts. Her smile faltered slightly. Do you have an appointment? No appointment, but I'm the primary account holder for an event scheduled here in a few weeks, and I have some questions. Let me see if someone's available. She picked up a phone, spoke quietly into it, hung up. Mr. Hendricks will be with you shortly. Please have a seat. We sat in the lobby on furniture that tried very hard to look rustic and expensive at the same time. Patricia picked up a brochure from the side table, flipped through it, raised her eyebrows. What? I asked. This place is barely hanging on, she said quietly, showing me a page. Look at this. They're advertising flexible payment plans and special financing options. That's not what successful venues do. She was right. Successful venues made you pay up front and didn't negotiate. A man emerged from a hallway behind the front desk. Mid-50s, gray hair, expensive suit that didn't quite hide the stress in his face. Mr. Patterson? I'm Gerald Hendricks, the property manager. Please come back to my office. We followed him down a hallway lined with framed photos of weddings and events, all of them trying to prove how magical and perfect the Riverside Lodge was. His office was small and cluttered, papers stacked on every surface, a computer screen showing what looked like budget spreadsheets. He closed the door and gestured for us to sit. What can I help you with? I want to know about my contract, I said. Specifically why it gives me so much control over the event. Hendricks looked confused. I'm sorry? My contract. Michael Patterson's wedding, scheduled for 3 weeks from now. Every clause in that agreement favors me over the venue. I want to know why." Understanding dawned on his face. He turned to his computer, typed for a moment, pulled up a file, read it, then looked at me with something like embarrassment. "Mr. Patterson, I'm going to be honest with you because I think you deserve honesty. When you signed that contract 6 months ago, we are experiencing some financial difficulties." "Go on." "The previous owners overextended themselves, took out loans they couldn't repay. The property went into foreclosure last year. A new ownership group purchased it and hired me to turn things around, but we're barely breaking even. We needed this event. We needed the booking. So we wrote a contract that would guarantee payment while giving you maximum flexibility. Because you thought I might back out? Because we thought the people pushing for the booking might not actually be able to pay," Hendricks said carefully. Patricia leaned forward. "The Thornton family." Hendricks didn't answer directly, didn't have to. His face said everything. "Let me guess," I said. "Richard and Barbara Thornton contacted you about booking the venue. You ran a credit check, found problems. So you required a different party to sign the contracts. That's essentially correct. And they pushed Michael to ask me? I don't know about that part. I just know that when we asked for a credit-worthy signer, you appeared with authorization to sign for everything." I sat back and let that information settle. The Thorntons had known from the start that they couldn't afford this wedding, had known their credit was shot, had deliberately manipulated Michael into manipulating me, and then they'd had the gall to treat me like I was beneath them. "What happens if I cancel?" I asked. Hendricks went very still. "Legally, you have the right to cancel up to 24 hours before the event with minimal penalty. Just loss of the deposit." "And what happens to the venue if I cancel?" He looked at the spreadsheet still visible on his computer screen. "We have other events. We'll survive." "But you need this one." "We don't not need it." Patricia made a small sound, almost a laugh. "You really need it." Hendricks didn't answer, didn't deny it either. I stood up. "Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Hendricks. Are you planning to cancel?" "I'm planning to think about it." I headed for the door, then stopped. "One more question. If I wanted to make changes to the event, major changes, how much notice would you need?" "The contract specifies 48 hours for vendor changes. But honestly, Mr. Patterson, we'd appreciate as much notice as possible. These kinds of events require significant coordination." "I'll keep that in mind." We left Hendricks sitting in his cluttered office, looking worried. On the drive home, Patricia was quiet for a long time before finally speaking. "They're all desperate," she said. "The venue is desperate. The Thorntons are desperate. Even Michael is desperate, though he doesn't know how to admit it. And desperate people make mistakes." "Exactly." I drove home thinking about leverage and power and how quickly situations could flip when someone held all the cards and nobody else realized it. By the time we pulled into our driveway, I knew exactly what my next move would be. Barbara Thornton showed up at my workplace. Not at my house where she could be avoided, not with a phone call that could be ignored, but directly at the construction site where I was supervising a renovation job. I was reviewing blueprints with the electrical contractor when I saw her picking her way across the muddy lot in shoes that probably cost more than my monthly insurance premium. Tommy, my coworker, whistled low. That's a lawyer or a divorce. Nothing else puts that look on a woman's face. "Worse," I said. "That's my son's future mother-in-law." "Oh, damn. You want me to get rid of her?" "No, I'll handle it." I walked over to meet her halfway, partly so she wouldn't have to navigate the worst of the mud, partly so this conversation wouldn't happen in front of my crew. Barbara stopped a few feet away from me, looking uncomfortable and out of place in her expensive clothes surrounded by concrete dust and power tools. "Mr. Patterson, I need to speak with you." "So speak?" "In private." I gestured toward my truck parked at the edge of the site. We walked over and I leaned against the tailgate while she stood there looking like she wanted to be anywhere else. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to understand what I did wrong." That stopped me. "Excuse me?" "I need to understand what I did that made you hate me so much. Hate us so much. Because right now I don't understand, and I need to understand before this wedding happens and ruins everything." I studied her face. She looked tired, older than she had at the rehearsal dinner. The expensive makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes or the stress lines around her mouth. "You really don't know?" I asked. "No, I know you're angry about something," Jessica said. "I know you think we used you, but I don't understand why you're punishing us like this when we're trying to do the right thing." "The right thing?" "Yes. We're trying to give Jessica a beautiful wedding. We're trying to start Michael and Jessica's marriage off properly. We're trying to maintain family harmony. Those are good things. You said you hoped my grandchildren wouldn't inherit my traits. Barbara blinked. What? At the rehearsal dinner. You whispered to someone that you hoped the grandchildren wouldn't inherit my traits. Like I'm defective. Like my genes are something to be ashamed of. She went pale, actually stumbled back a step. I said that? You did. I don't remember. I remember. I remember every word, every inflection, every ounce of contempt in your voice when you said it. Barbara put her hand over her mouth. For a moment I thought she might cry. Then she lowered her hand and looked at me directly. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I didn't realize. I say things sometimes, thoughtless things I don't really mean. You meant that one. No, Yes, you did. You think I'm beneath you. You think my son married up. You think your family's money and status make you better than me. Except your family doesn't have money, do they, Barbara? She flinched like I'd hit her. You're broke, I continued. Your business is failing. Your credit is destroyed. This wedding you're so desperate to throw. You can't afford it. The only reason it's happening at all is because I'm paying for it. It's completely true and we both know it. So let's stop pretending. You needed me. You used me. And then you treated me like garbage because it made you feel better about needing me in the first place? Barbara was silent for a long time. Around us, the construction site hummed with activity. Hammering, drilling, men calling to each other. Normal work sounds. Honest work sounds. You're right, she finally said. About what? About all of it. The business is failing. Richard hasn't made a sale in 9 months. We took out loans we can't repay. We're 3 months from bankruptcy. And we needed this wedding to work because... She stopped. Because why? Because if we can pull off a beautiful, expensive wedding, people will think we're still successful. They'll think we still have money. And maybe that will lead to new business, new opportunities, a way out. So the wedding is a con. No, it's survival. At my expense. Yes, at your expense. And that was wrong. I see that now. I pushed off from the tailgate. Do you? Do you really see it? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear so I'll stop making changes to the wedding? I really see it. Her voice was steady, honest in a way I hadn't heard from her before. I've spent the last week thinking about what you said, about class and respect and worth, and I realized something. What? I've been so focused on appearing wealthy that I forgot what actually matters. Richard and I used to work together building that business from nothing. Used to be proud of the work we did, not just the money we made. But somewhere along the way, we got lost. Started caring more about what people thought than what was real. And now? And now, we're paying the price. Our business is failing because we chased status instead of customers. Our daughter learned to value the wrong things because we taught her to. And we hurt a good man because we were too proud to admit we needed help. I studied her face, looking for the lie, looking for the manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and something that might have been genuine remorse. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you were right. At that coffee shop with Michael, you said you wanted real change, not just apologies. This is real change. This is me understanding what we did wrong. One conversation doesn't change 28 years of attitudes. No, but it's a start. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I want you to have this. What is it? A letter, explaining everything to Jessica. How her father and I manipulated the situation. How we pressured Michael. How we treated you. She doesn't know the full truth. She knows we're having financial problems, but she doesn't know how bad it is or what we did to you. I took the envelope, but didn't open it. Why give this to me? Because you need to know I'm serious. That letter destroys my relationship with my daughter, but you deserve the truth. You deserve to know that I'm willing to sacrifice my own comfort to make this right. Or you're giving it to me because you know I won't use it. Maybe, I don't know anymore, but it's yours either way. She turned to leave, then stopped. Mr. Patterson? Yeah. For what it's worth, your son is a good man. He learned that from you, and I'm sorry we made him ashamed of that. She walked back across the muddy lot toward her expensive car, and I stood there holding the envelope and wondering if I'd just witnessed genuine remorse or the most sophisticated manipulation yet. Tommy came over after Barbara drove away. Everything okay? I don't know. She apologize? Something like that? You believe her? I looked at the envelope. I don't know that either. That night I sat in the workshop with Patricia, both of us reading the letter Barbara had given me. It was 3 pages long, handwritten, and brutally honest about the Thornton family's financial situation and their manipulation of Michael. It detailed conversations Barbara had with Richard about managing me. It included specific numbers about their debts. It even acknowledged the different class comment and explained it as Barbara projecting her own insecurities. Patricia set the letter down. "This is damning." "Yeah. If you showed this to Jessica, it would destroy her relationship with her parents." "I know." "Are you going to use it?" I reread the final paragraph. "I know this doesn't erase what we did. I know words on paper can't undo the hurt we caused, but I hope it shows you that I'm willing to face the truth, even when the truth makes me look terrible. You deserve respect, Mr. Patterson. You always did." "I don't know," I said honestly. "What's holding you back?" "If I use this letter, I win. I prove they were wrong. I humiliate them publicly. But I also prove that I'm vindictive and cruel, that I'd destroy a family just to make a point." "They tried to destroy you." "Not destroy, just dismiss. There's a difference." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to think about it. We've got 7 days until the wedding. I'll decide before then." "And in the meantime?" In the meantime, I'm going to see if anyone else shows up with genuine remorse. Barbara was first. Let's see who's next." The next person to show up was Richard. He came to the house 2 days later, late afternoon, driving a sedan that had seen better days. Patricia answered the door and brought him into the living room where I was watching the news. "Mr. Patterson." Richard sat down without being invited. "I need to talk to you." "So talk." "Barbara told me she came to see you, told me she gave you a letter." "She did." "Have you read it?" "I have." "And?" "And I'm thinking about what to do with it." Richard nodded slowly. He looked worse than Barbara had. Unshaven, clothes wrinkled, the kind of exhaustion that comes from too many sleepless nights. "She told me what she wrote, about our finances, about how we used your son." "Is it true?" "All of it." "So now what?" "Now I ask you not to use that letter. Not because we don't deserve it, but because our daughter doesn't deserve to learn about her parents' failures that way." "What way does she deserve to learn about them?" "From us. Directly. We need to be the ones to tell her the truth." "And will you?" Richard looked at his hands. "I don't know. I want to. Barbara wants to, but we're afraid." "Of what?" "Of losing her. Jessica's always been. Fragile isn't the right word. Idealistic, maybe. She believes the world is a certain way, that families like ours work a certain way. If we shatter that illusion, I don't know if she'll forgive us. She's an adult. She can handle the truth. Can she? Can any of us?" I didn't have an answer for that. Richard stood up. "I'm not here to beg. I'm not here to make excuses. I just want you to know that Barbara and I are trying to be better, trying to understand what we did wrong, and we're sorry. Sorry doesn't pay my $138,000 bill. No, it doesn't, and we can't pay you back. We're broke, completely broke. If this wedding doesn't lead to new business somehow, we'll be filing bankruptcy within 6 months. That's not my problem. I know, I'm just being honest." Little late for honesty. Better late than never. He left, and I sat there thinking about honesty and timing and whether there was any such thing as too late. The third person to show up was Jessica herself. She came the next morning, alone, looking nervous and determined at the same time. I was in the workshop when I heard the doorbell. Patricia answered and called out to me. "It's Jessica. She wants to talk to you." I walked to the front door. Jessica stood on the porch holding a folder and looking younger than her 26 years, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen her. "Mr. Patterson, can we talk?" "About what?" "About everything. About what I said at the rehearsal, about what my parents did, about this whole mess." I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where Richard had sat yesterday, and I waited for her to start. "I didn't know," she finally said. "About my parents' financial situation, about how they used Michael, about any of it. You knew some of it. I knew they were having some business trouble, but not the extent. Not that we couldn't afford this wedding. And now you know." "Now I know." She opened the folder and pulled out papers. "These are revised contracts. For the wedding. I had a lawyer draw them up. They transfer all the vendor authorizations to Michael and me. They remove you from any financial liability after the wedding happens. They clarify the payment structure. I took the papers and scanned them. They were professionally done. Detailed. Exactly what she said they were." "Why?" I asked. "Because you were right. This is our wedding, not yours. We shouldn't have put this burden on you. We should have been honest from the start about what we could and couldn't afford. This doesn't change what was said, what was done. No, it doesn't, but it's a start. And I wanted you to know that I understand what my mother said about your grandchildren. I wanted you to know that I don't feel that way. I never did. You called me a different class. Jessica flinched. I did, and I'm ashamed of that. I was stressed and scared, and I lashed out at you because you were there, and it was easier than admitting my family was falling apart. That's an excuse, not an apology. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, truly sorry for what I said, for how I treated you, for making you feel like you weren't good enough when the truth is you're the only one in this whole situation who's been honest and decent. I set the revised contracts on the coffee table. What about Michael? What about him? He hasn't come here, hasn't tried this hard to make things right. Michael's terrified. He thinks you hate him. He thinks he's lost you forever. Maybe he has. Have you? Jessica leaned forward. Because if you have, if there's nothing he can do to fix this, then tell me now. Tell me so I can prepare him. I looked at this young woman who'd walked into my life less than a year ago, and somehow become the catalyst for the worst family crisis I'd ever experienced. She wasn't evil, wasn't malicious, just young and naive and raised by parents who taught her the wrong values. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if Michael and I can fix this, but I know this. If we do fix it, it won't be because you or your parents negotiated on his behalf. It'll be because he finds the courage to face me himself and accept whatever consequences come from that. Jessica nodded. That's fair. She stood up. Keep those contracts. Use them or don't use them, but know that I'm trying. We're all trying. After she left, Patricia came into the living room. That was unexpected. Yeah. Do you believe her? I think I do, which surprises me. What about the contracts? I picked them up again, read through them more carefully. They were legitimate, would actually remove me from most of the financial liability going forward, would give Michael and Jessica control while still holding them responsible. I don't know yet, I said, but I think things just got a lot more complicated.